There are moments in life when everything feels silent. You pray, but hear no answer. You try, but nothing works. You wait, but the waiting never ends. And in that silence, you start to wonder, has God forgotten about me? But what if I told you, the silence is not rejection, it's preparation. Because God's plan for you is bigger than you can even imagine. If this touched your heart even a little, someone else needs to hear it too. Don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs hope right now. Let's be honest. Sometimes life doesn't make sense. You do all the right things and still end up in the wrong place. You follow the steps, you read the books, you work hard, but the breakthrough doesn't come. And you start asking, what am I missing? That's when the doubt creeps in. You look around and see others winning, moving forward, thriving, while you're still stuck. But here's the truth no one tells you. Delay is not denial. In fact, some of the most powerful breakthroughs in life are hidden in seasons of delay. Let me say this again, not because it sounds good, but because it's real. Just because it's not happening yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Napoleon Hill once said, "Most great people have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure." Now, what if you're standing on that one step? What if your current silence is the final test before the shift? You see, God doesn't show you the entire map. He shows you the next step. Because if He revealed the whole plan, you'd either run from it out of fear or try to control it out of pride. So instead, He teaches you to walk by faith, not by sight. To trust that even the detour is part of the design. That what feels like a breakdown might be the setup for the breakthrough. Think about this. Have you ever looked back at something you begged God for? A job, a relationship, an opportunity, and today you're thankful it didn't happen? That's not a coincidence. That's divine protection. Sometimes God blocks what you want now to give you what you truly need later. Because you're not just being guided towards success. You're being shaped for purpose. I know what it's like to cry out for something and get silence. To question if your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling. To feel invisible, even to God. But I also know what it's like to see the reason later. To realize He wasn't punishing me, He was positioning me. Positioning me for something I couldn't see, couldn't understand, and honestly, wasn't ready for at the time. And maybe you're in that exact moment right now. So what if, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you started asking, what is this preparing me for? What if your current silence is the sacred space where God does His most important work? Because here's the truth. The bigger the calling, the longer the preparation. You don't build a skyscraper in a weekend. You go deep before you go high. And right now, God is digging deep in you because the height He's calling you to requires strong foundations. So don't confuse the delay with the denial. Don't let the silence make you believe God is absent. He's not far. He's working behind the scenes, aligning people, events, and opportunities that will unfold in His time, not yours. In part 2, we're going deeper. We'll explore why your greatest frustrations may be proof of your greatest calling, and how to unlock the mindset that aligns with divine timing. Stay with me. This isn't just a message. This is preparation for something bigger than you think.
You're still here, and that says something. It means you haven't given up. It means that even if you're tired, even if you're confused, even if you're standing in the middle of the unknown, you're still hoping, still holding on, still listening. And maybe that's exactly the kind of faith God needs to work with. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Before God does something through you, He almost always does something to you. He breaks the illusion. He removes the distractions. He strips away the ego, not to hurt you, but to build the version of you that can actually carry what you're asking for. Think about that. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The calling you're carrying is not small. And because it's not small, your path won't be easy. There will be resistance, delays, lonely nights, people who leave, prayers that don't get answered the way you expected. And it will feel like you're being left behind while others race ahead. But here's what they don't realize. God is not calling you to be fast. He's calling you to be faithful. Because the race you're running isn't measured in speed. It's measured in strength, strength of character, strength of spirit, strength of surrender. And that strength, it's forged in fire. You don't get patience without being made to wait. You don't develop trust until you're asked to walk blind. You don't learn surrender until you've run out of plans. And you don't experience peace until you face chaos and chosen to stand anyway. So if you feel like your life is stretching you, breaking you, turning you inside out, you're not being destroyed, you're being refined. There's a story in the Bible where Joseph has a dream, a vision from God that he would one day be in a position of great power. But right after that, his life collapses. He's betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, wrongfully imprisoned, forgotten. And it would be over a decade before that dream finally came true. But what happened during that time? He was being tested. He was being trusted with trials. God was not just preparing the dream, he was preparing Joseph. And maybe he's doing the same with you. See, you think you're waiting on God, but maybe, just maybe, he's waiting on you. Waiting on you to stop forcing. Waiting on you to release the timeline. Waiting on you to trust him, even when the road makes no sense. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Faith is the head chemist of the mind." And that's the truth. Because faith is not passive, it's powerful. It's the ability to move forward even when you can't see the finish line. It's believing in a promise that hasn't arrived yet and living like it already has. Let me ask you something. Who would you become if you truly believed that God's plan for you was not only real, but already in motion? How would you carry yourself today if you knew that every delay was divine, that every no was a redirection, that every moment of silence was sacred? Maybe you'd stop panicking when doors close. Maybe you'd stop comparing your journey to theirs. Maybe you'd stop doubting your worth every time the outcome didn't match your expectation. Because your calling is custom built. Your timeline is not supposed to match theirs. The breakthrough that God is preparing for you isn't late, it's on time. You're just early. And this, right now, is the training ground for the version of you who will walk through that door when it opens. So don't despise this chapter. Don't curse the waiting room. Don't rush out of the wilderness before the work is finished. You don't plant a seed and then dig it up every day to check its progress. No, you water it. You trust the soil. You protect it from what could destroy it. And you wait. You wait not with frustration, but with expectation. Because in the spiritual world, silence is not inactivity. It's incubation. And the more silent it is, the more powerful the transformation. You are not meant to live a small life. If that were true, the dream wouldn't feel so heavy. The desire wouldn't feel so divine. The calling wouldn't keep waking you up in the middle of the night. You're here because there's something greater waiting for you, and deep down, you know it. So don't lose faith now. Don't abandon the process. Don't give up in the middle of your transformation, because your breakthrough is not coming someday. It's already unfolding. God is not improvising. He's orchestrating. And your only job is to keep walking. In part 3, we're going to uncover the real reason why you're facing so much resistance right now, and how it's often a sign that you're closer than ever to the purpose you were born for. Don't miss it. Your story is still being written, and the next chapter will change everything.
The closer you get to your calling, the more resistance you will feel. That's not a coincidence. That's confirmation. Resistance is not proof that you're doing something wrong. It's often the clearest sign that you're finally doing something right, something meaningful, something that threatens the lies you've been told and the limits the world tried to place on you. Let me say this plainly. The enemy doesn't attack empty people. He attacks the ones carrying purpose. He attacks the ones who are dangerous to darkness. And if you've been under pressure, under spiritual attack, under emotional weight that feels impossible to carry, you're not weak. You're not broken. You're chosen. Chosen for something that your current situation can't even reflect yet. Because God doesn't just give vision, He gives resistance to build the character that can carry that vision. You don't climb higher without pressure. You don't level up without friction. You don't walk into promise without facing opposition. Even Napoleon Hill talked about this kind of resistance. In Outwitting the Devil, he says the greatest enemy of success is fear. Fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of poverty, fear of losing love. These fears, they're tools. Tools that keep you stuck, paralyzed, distracted. But here's the deeper truth. The resistance you're facing is not there to stop you. It's there to strengthen you. What if your fear is the exact doorway you're supposed to walk through? What if the thing you've been avoiding is the key to the next chapter of your life? You keep asking God for clarity, but clarity comes through movement. You don't get to sit still and receive the entire picture. No, you move even when you're unsure. You step even when the ground feels shaky. And that's when clarity shows up. Not before, but during. And that's where most people give up. They want certainty before they take action. But God calls you to move by faith, not by sight. You're not building a safe life. You're building a surrendered one. And surrender is scary because it means letting go of your timeline, letting go of control, letting go of how you thought it was supposed to happen. But in that release, in that holy surrender, something shifts. You stop striving, you stop forcing, and you finally allow grace to do what hustle never could. Look, I know it's hard. I know you're tired. I know you've been faithful and still haven't seen the results. But hear me. That does not mean you're off track. It means the root system is still growing. God often works in layers. What you see on the surface is never the whole story. He's building things you can't see yet. Relationships, character, resilience, timing. And when all of it aligns, that's when the door opens. Not because you forced it open, but because you became the person who was finally ready to walk through it. The goal isn't just to get the breakthrough, it's to become the kind of person who can keep it. That's why it's taking time. That's why it feels so slow. Because God isn't just delivering the outcome, He's developing the foundation. And if you rush the process, you'll collapse under the blessing. You don't want fast success that fades. You want real transformation that lasts. So let me ask you something. What if the delay is actually mercy? What if the waiting season is the most compassionate thing God could have given you? Because maybe the version of you that prayed for the blessing wouldn't have known how to handle it. But the version of you that's being refined by fire, broken and rebuilt, will. You're not falling apart. You're falling into alignment. And that pressure you're feeling, it's labor pain. It's spiritual contraction. Something is trying to be born through you, but birth is never painless. It's messy. It's wild. It doesn't always make sense. But when it's time, nothing can stop it. You're not late. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're right on time for your timeline, your calling, your life. So don't let resistance lie to you. Don't let fear make your decisions. Don't let fatigue steal your future. Because your story is not finished. And the chapter you're stepping into, the one that's coming next, could be the one that makes sense of everything. In Part 4, we're going to explore what it really means to align with God's plan, and how to stop striving and start flowing with the timing that was written for you since the beginning. You're not here by accident. Stay with this, because you're about to understand why the fight was so intense and why it was never random.
You've been pushing. You've been striving. You've been trying to make it all make sense. But maybe It's time to stop striving and start aligning. Because alignment is not about doing more. It's about becoming more aware, more still, more present, more in tune with the divine rhythm of your life. There's a difference between chasing your dream and aligning with your purpose. One is based on hustle. The other is rooted in trust. And trust, that's what God has been trying to teach you. You see, when you're aligned with His timing, you don't have to force open doors. You don't have to beg for validation. You don't have to fear losing what was never meant for you. Instead, you learn to move when it's time and wait when it's not. Napoleon Hill once said, "When your desires are strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve." But here's what Hill understood. The power isn't in the desire alone. It's in the alignment of that desire with faith, discipline, and timing. And that's where most people struggle. They want the outcome, but not the inner work. They want the mountaintop, but skip the climb. They want the promise, but reject the process. But here's the secret. When you're truly aligned with God's purpose, peace becomes your compass. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you believe. And you no longer panic, because you trust the timing, even when it looks like nothing is happening. Let me give it to you straight. If you're constantly feeling anxious, frantic, or desperate, that's not alignment. That's fear pretending to be ambition. God is not chaotic. His plans may be mysterious, but they're never reckless. So maybe it's time to release the timeline you wrote for yourself. Maybe it's time to let go of the pressure to be further ahead than you are. Because you're not late. You're in training. You're in development. You're in alignment with becoming who you were created to be. And that takes time. Think about nature. Trees don't rush to grow. Flowers don't bloom overnight. The ocean doesn't worry about the tides. Everything in creation moves in rhythm, not in reaction. You were created to move the same way, but the world taught you to hurry, to compare, to measure your worth by progress and productivity. So now, when nothing's happening on the surface, you assume you're behind. But you're not behind. You're just underground, rooting, anchoring, preparing. Because what God is building in you is not a quick success story. It's a legacy. And legacy takes longer. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is not leaping forward, it's staying still. It's being willing to sit in the uncertainty without trying to escape it. It's trusting that even in the quiet, God is speaking. Even in the delay, God is moving. Even in the invisible, God is aligning. And maybe what you think is a detour is actually the direct route to destiny. You wanted speed. God wanted strength. You asked for clarity. He gave you faith. You begged for the finish line. He handed you a seed. And now you're being invited to trust the process. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Right for your soul. Right for your growth. Right for the calling that's bigger than anything you imagined. You're not in the wrong place. You're in the middle of the making. So breathe. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the story you keep telling yourself about where you should be by now. Because should is not your source. Spirit is. And Spirit says you're right on time. Look around. Everything you've been through, every tear, every delay, every closed door, it wasn't wasted. It was building something, shaping something, birthing something. You're not just waiting on a breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. So stop shrinking. Stop second-guessing. Stop settling.
and step into the flow that was designed for you from the very beginning. In Part 5, we're going even deeper into how your identity has been shaped by delays, disappointments, and divine redirection, and how to finally release the version of you that was never meant to survive the promise you're about to step into.
Somewhere along the way, you started believing a lie. That you're not ready. That you missed your moment. That maybe you're not chosen after all. But that's not the truth. That's the old version of you talking. The one shaped by disappointment, by delay, by people who didn't see your value and seasons that didn't bear fruit. And if you're going to walk into what God has prepared for you, you're going to have to let that version die. Because the next chapter of your life can't be written in the same voice as the last. There's a version of you that was built in survival, in scarcity, in proving yourself, in performing for approval. That version of you was necessary for a time. It got you through. It helped you cope. It helped you build walls to protect yourself from the pain. But now, that version is standing in the way of your breakthrough. Because what got you here won't get you there. And deep down, you already know that. You felt it, the restlessness, the inner conflict, the quiet whisper that keeps telling you there's more and that you're not supposed to carry this heavy armor anymore. God isn't calling you to be impressive. He's calling you to be real, to be available, to be honest. That's what alignment really looks like. Not perfection, but presence. The power you've been looking for, it's not out there. It's in your ability to release who you're not so you can finally walk in who you are. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But here's what he didn't say. Sometimes, before you can believe something new, you have to unlearn everything that made you doubt it. So maybe your real breakthrough won't be the money, the title, or the recognition. Maybe the real breakthrough is finally believing you are enough, even before the proof shows up. Because here's the truth. If you don't believe it before the blessing, you won't believe it after. You'll get the thing you prayed for and sabotage it. You'll walk into the room and question if you belong. You'll meet the right people and shrink to fit in. Why? Because the old identity is still running the show. The one that says, I have to earn love. I have to prove I'm worthy. I have to be perfect to be accepted. That voice is not from God. That voice is from the wounds of the past, and wounds don't get to write your future. You've outgrown that version. And yes, letting it go will feel like grief, but that's okay. Because every resurrection requires a death. If you want to be reborn into purpose, you have to lay down the persona. You have to stop filtering your worth through likes, followers, money, validation. You have to stop waiting for someone else to call you valuable before you believe it yourself. God already called you chosen. He already stamped your name on the promise. He's not asking you to perform. He's asking you to trust. And trust looks like this: showing up even when you're scared, speaking truth even when your voice shakes, taking the next step even when the outcome is uncertain. Because faith doesn't eliminate fear, it moves through it. Let me ask you something. Who would you be without the shame? Without the guilt? Without the old narrative that says, I'm too late, I'm too broken, or I'm not enough? Because that version of you, the free one, the whole one, the grounded one, is who the world been waiting for. That's the version God is calling forward. Not the polished image, not the perfect resume, the real you. The you that's been buried under years of pretending, pleasing, surviving. The you that's bold enough to believe the wait wasn't wasted. The you that refuses to settle for less than what was written in your spirit. That's the you who's ready. And that's the you who's about to rise. So take a moment. Look at everything you've been through, the seasons that broke you, the people who left, the nights you cried yourself to sleep. And then say this, thank you. Because all of it, every single moment, brought you here, to this moment of release, to this sacred space between who you were and who you're becoming. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your performance. You are a child of purpose, and you're about to step into something holy. In part 6, we'll talk about the power of letting go, not just of who you were, but of everything and everyone that can't follow you into your next season. Because elevation always requires separation. And what's coming next will demand a lighter spirit, a cleaner heart, and an unshakable mind.
Letting go isn't easy, but sometimes the weight you're carrying isn't yours to bear anymore. We talk a lot about becoming, about growing, evolving, rising into purpose. But we forget that real elevation doesn't just require more effort, it requires less baggage. You can't climb higher while holding on to what was meant to stay on the ground. So the question becomes, what or who are you still carrying that's holding you back? Maybe it's an old belief. Maybe it's a toxic relationship. Maybe it's a fear you inherited but never questioned. Maybe it's your need to be liked, understood, accepted by people who were never meant to walk with you anyway. Whatever it is, you know what I'm talking about. You feel the weight of it. It shows up in your anxiety, your indecision, your procrastination. And the truth is, it's not just slowing you down. It's stopping you from stepping into what's next. Because there's a spiritual law you can't escape. You cannot receive what's meant for you while clinging to what's meant to be released. Even Napoleon Hill said, "A closed mind does not inspire faith, courage, or belief." And I'd add this, a closed heart can't carry destiny. A clenched fist can't receive blessing. So maybe the real work isn't climbing harder, but letting go smarter. Letting go of what hurt you without carrying the bitterness. Letting go of people who left without chasing their approval. Letting go of dreams that died so new ones can live. Because grief isn't the enemy, avoidance is. What you refuse to confront will continue to control you. And if you're honest, you've been trying to drag the old season into a new one, hoping it'll still fit. But it doesn't. It can't. The next level you've been praying for requires a lighter you, a freer you, a version of you that's no longer driven by survival mode, by scarcity, by the need to prove your worth through performance. You can't carry that pressure anymore. You were never meant to. There comes a moment in every calling where God whispers, "It's time." Time to forgive what broke you. Time to release what betrayed you. Time to walk away from the distractions, the noise, the habits that keep you circling the same mountain year after year. It's not punishment. It's positioning. God isn't taking something from you. He's making room for what's next. But you have to trust Him enough to open your hand, even if it feels like you're losing control, even if it feels like you're losing yourself, because sometimes the release feels like death, but it's actually resurrection. Remember this. When God called Abraham to leave his homeland, He didn't show him the whole map. He just said, "Go to the land I will show you." He had to leave the familiar before he saw the future. That's faith. That's obedience. That's surrender. And maybe that's where you are right now.
standing between what's comfortable and what's calling you higher, between what's known and what's necessary. You can't stay here. You've been circling this place long enough. The pain, the patterns, the people who don't pour into you, it's time to release them. Because they can't come with you. Not into this next season. Not into this next version of you. Yes, it will be hard. Yes, there will be days you miss what you let go of. But peace doesn't always feel like comfort. Sometimes peace feels like clarity. And clarity says, you don't need this anymore. You're ready to rise. God is not just preparing the blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. And part of that preparation is pruning, removing what no longer serves your growth, so you can finally stretch to what does. So let go. Not just with your hands, but with your heart. Release the need to explain yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. Release the need to go back and fix what already fell apart. Release the version of you that kept choosing pain because it was familiar. And in that release, find freedom. You don't need closure when you have clarity. You don't need to be understood when you're being led. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be available. Because what's coming next, it's not just restoration, it's resurrection. In Part 7, we'll go deeper into what it means to walk boldly into your calling, even when you feel unqualified, unprepared, or unsure. Because God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And you're not walking into this season alone.
You keep waiting to feel ready, to feel worthy, to feel qualified enough to step into what's been placed in your heart. But what if I told you, you may never feel ready? And that's exactly the point. Because God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And the moment you were called, the moment you felt that fire in your soul, that whisper in your spirit, that vision in your heart, you were already enough. Not because you had it all together, not because your resume was perfect, but because you were willing. Willing to show up, willing to surrender, willing to walk even when your legs shook and the path didn't make sense. That's what separates those who live in purpose from those who only dream about it. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not perfection. It's obedience. The truth is, if you wait until you feel qualified, you'll never move. You'll keep shrinking. You'll keep overthinking. You'll keep asking for more signs when God already gave you the signal. That burning in your chest, that's the sign. That unrest in your spirit, that's the sign. That longing that won't let you go, that's the sign. You don't need more confirmation, you need more courage. Because God is not looking for your credentials, He's looking for your commitment. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Do not wait. The time will never be just right." And it's true. The stars won't always align. The money won't always be there. The plan won't always be clear. But your yes, your willingness to take the next step in faith, that's where heaven meets earth. That's where the power is. So if you're feeling unqualified, let me remind you of something powerful. Most of the people God used in the Bible didn't feel ready either. Moses stuttered. David was too young. Esther was scared. Peter denied Jesus. Paul had a past. And yet they changed history. Not because they were perfect, but because they were positioned. Positioned in surrender. Positioned in faith. Positioned to say, "Here I am, Lord, use me."
And that's what this moment is about. Not about pretending you have all the answers, but about saying yes, even when you don't. So what if you stopped waiting to feel ready? What if you stopped waiting for someone else to choose you and chose yourself? Because God already chose you. The question is, will you agree with Him? Will you stop shrinking into the background of your own life? Will you stop disqualifying yourself with doubt? Will you stop saying, maybe someday, and realize that someday is now? The world is not waiting for your perfection, it's waiting for your presence. It's waiting for the real you, the bold you, the vulnerable you, the anointed you to finally show up. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, you'll feel exposed. Yes, you'll have to face every lie that ever told you you're not enough. But here's what's on the other side of that fear. Freedom, fulfillment, favor. Because when you step into alignment with what God has called you to do, grace rushes in to meet you. Doors open, resources appear, people show up, not because you forced it, but because you were faithful. That's what this next season is about. Not forcing, but flowing. Not striving, but stepping. Not hustling, but hearing. Hearing the voice that's been calling you for years, the voice that said, you're more than what you settled for. The voice that said, I'm not done with you yet. The voice that said, I have plans for you, big ones. Plans to prosper you, plans to heal you, plans to use your story, even the messy, broken parts, for something bigger than you can imagine. But you have to decide. Are you going to keep waiting for the perfect moment? Or are you going to step out in radical faith even if your knees are shaking? Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of it. And you? You were born to move mountains, born to shift atmospheres, born to light up every room you enter, not because of ego, but because of the light you carry. You are not too late. You are not too much. You are exactly what this moment requires. In Part 8, we bring everything together, the waiting, the pain, the faith, the resistance, and show you how to walk daily in the fullness of your calling, no matter what season you're in. Because it's not enough to believe it once, you have to live it every day. You've made it here, through the waiting, the doubt, the resistance, the letting go. And now the question isn't just, do you believe in God's plan? It's, will you walk in it every single day? Because belief isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily choice, a daily surrender, a daily alignment. And here's the truth. Your calling isn't just about the big moments. It's about the small ones, the ordinary ones, the silent, unnoticed, unseen ones. The world teaches you to chase outcomes. God teaches you to master obedience. So if you want to live in purpose, if you truly want to walk in what's been prepared for you, then you have to build your life around disciplined devotion, not around hype, not around results, not around validation, but around faithfulness. Because the most powerful lives aren't built on motivation. They're built on consistency, showing up in prayer, even when you don't feel anything. Serving others, even when you're tired. Speaking life, even when your own feels heavy. Believing in the vision, even when it's been a long time since you saw results. That's the real test. Can you be faithful without applause? Can you be consistent without confirmation? Can you keep walking when the spotlight fades and the only voice cheering you on is God's? Because that's where the power is. Not in moments of inspiration, but in a lifestyle
of intention. You don't need a breakthrough moment every day. You need discipline. You need vision. You need a reason to keep going, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when nothing seems to be happening. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel." In other words, the fire you've been walking through isn't breaking you, it's forging you. Forging patience, forging courage, forging clarity, forging the kind of soul that doesn't fold under pressure. So how do you walk in that practically? You begin every day in stillness, not on your phone, not chasing the world, but in quiet alignment with God. You ask, who am I becoming? What would the version of me who's already living in purpose do today? What do I need to lay down so I can rise higher? Then you move. You take the step. You speak the truth. You stay in your lane, and you stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel. Because your purpose is unique. Your rhythm is holy. And your timeline is not broken. It's being divinely managed. You don't need to rush. You need to trust. And trust means this. You sow even when the ground looks dry. You water even when you don't see the sprout. You wait even when others are reaping, because you know your harvest is on the way. God is not unjust. He sees what you're doing in secret. He honors what you've built in the dark. He rewards those who keep showing up even when there's no immediate return. So keep going. Keep building. Keep praying. Keep showing up for the life you were born to live, not someday, but now. Not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, not when you feel inspired, but today, right now. Because you don't just step into purpose once, you wake up and walk in it every single day. Even when it's quiet, even when it's lonely, even when no one else sees what you're carrying. Because God sees, and He's never wasted one moment of your journey. The delays, they shaped you. The rejection, it refined you. The silence, it grew your roots. The pain, it pushed you toward purpose. And now you're not just waiting on a breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. You carry the light. You embody the message. You live the purpose. So stop doubting. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop playing small. Your life was never meant to be average. You weren't created to blend in. You were called to stand out. Not for your glory, but for God's. So rise. Take up your space. Own your story. Walk in your calling with boldness, with consistency, and with unshakable faith. Because His plan for you, it's still unfolding. It's still growing, and it's still bigger than you can imagine. Now go live like it. And if this message touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Someone out there is praying for the reminder you just heard. Be the answer to that prayer. Share this. Speak this. Live this. Because the world doesn't just need more noise, it needs more light. And you were born to shine.